So a couple days ago, I found Arctic's lineup of computer fans, and I'm recently working on an amplifier, and I'm going to be building a home server soon, and I need quiet fans for them. Now, normally computer fans are quite expensive if you want the quiet ones, so they're about $20-something. So when I found these Arctic fans for about $10 a piece, I thought I might buy them and try them out and see if they're any good. I have had a friend who's built a computer with the F12 in the past, and I found it to be quite decent for the price. It was rather quiet and it moved quite a lot of air, so I thought I'd buy a bunch and investigate. So let's begin with the P14, since I've taken that out of the packaging already. So here's the P14. This is about $12 Canadian, and it is a 14 centimeter, fan with fluid dynamic bearings and supposedly some neodymium magnet motor. It's got these swept blades, very long and very sharp at the ends. So hopefully what this will do is it'll help with the noise a little bit, because these blades are going to be, the edges are not going to be cutting through the air as you can kind of, they're going to have a lower speed relative to the air. And also the venturi casing, the struts for the motor are nice and curved, and they pass rather slowly, so hopefully that controls noise as well. So before we get started, I've actually been able to open this one. The blade pops right off. In case you didn't know, just to pop these off, you just go back here and you carefully push off, and it'll come right off. So we take it off, and see this is the inside of the fan. We got a ring magnet right here, and we have our motor and the control IC right there. It's a Hall sensor, and we have a 4-pole motor, and it's got that stepped construction, not the sort of smooth rounded one. So I wonder how that'll do, but so yeah, so this is a standard sort of fan for comparison. The reason why I have that is because here, if we look on the website, I got these, it says that there's a neodymium iron boron magnet in this fan. So I'm pretty sure this Foxconn that came out of a Dell doesn't, so we'll have a quick look. So let's see. Here we have a screwdriver. Let's see how strong that is. It's all right. It's not the strongest magnet in the world, but it's fine. Let's see. Now, as we all know, neodymium magnets are a bit stronger than usual. Okay, that's a fair magnet. It's not much stronger. If we, go over to, even a little tiny neodymium magnet, significantly more force required to pop it off. So I'm kind of wondering, it looks like a ceramic magnet to me, so I'm not too sure. Also, it says it's a fluid dynamic bearing. If we go back up here and look, so that's what it's supposed to look like. So over here, as you can see, I wouldn't call that as much as a fluid as I probably would say that's it's dry grease. Let's we can zoom into that. It looks more like dry grease to me, which is a good thing because it probably lasts a while. Of course, once it heats up during operation, it could. But either way, these were only $12, so I'm not sure what I'm expecting. Let's pop this back together, and we'll power it up and give it a go. Before we put it back together, I'll show you the impeller. It's pressure optimized, 5 blades, decent sort of design. Stickers on the fan side, take that off if you don't like it. Overall, my impressions of this so far are decent. These just snap right in, turn smoothly, and no real cocking, so that's nice. No real cocking you can feel through the frame, which is a problem with some of the other ones. So we have very rather thin wiring, no labeling, but yeah, so this is what it looks like. The wires nicely put in there, so if you break the wires, probably not going to be able to resolder them. But anyway, let's move on to testing. So right here, I have a pretty primitive fan testing setup here. So how this works is I hook up the fan to this rig, and we'll be able to send a PWM signal as well as power to the fan. So I'm going to start by connecting it to power without PWM. We're on 5 volts right now. Oops, that's touching the box. Now we're running. So at 5 volts, it's rather quiet. You can barely hear it. You can kind of hear it a little bit. Only a very little bit. It's rather quiet. It's not moving a huge amount of air. But I can't really hear it. It's a good thing. If I put it on the box, I can't really hear the vibrations. You can definitely hear it. It's not, absolutely dead silent. It's not too bad at all. I can definitely hear it more when it's on the desk because it's transmitting the vibrations. If I put it down flat, I can hear the cogging. I don't know if you can hear it off the microphone, but so Arctic claims that the quote operating sound of the new Arctic motor is barely noticeable. Due to a sinus magnetizing, the new motor creates only about 5% of the vibration from commutation of a regular DC motor without filter. So there is no need for rubber spacers due to the steady and smooth torque of the new motor. I would probably still use spacers, since there's a small amount of noise. But keep in mind this is at 5 volts. Let's see what happens when we bring it up to 9. So we're at 9 volts now, and you can definitely hear the cogging. There's quite a lot of wind coming out of that. You can probably hear it by now. If we pick it up, I can still hear it. There's that whirring sound, so it's not absolutely silent. This is at 9 volts. So there's definitely sound. It's not running very quickly, is it? It's quiet. There's a whirring sound. It's sort of... There's definitely a lot of wind coming out of it. That's for sure. It's quite an efficient fan considering the noise. But I'm not sure I like that. It's kind of making a whirring sound. Let's turn the speed up a little bit and see what happens. Now we're at 12 volts. The air noise is definitely dominant at this point. Hear some of that noise that this creates. There's not a lot of motor noise. It's running a lot faster now. A significant amount of airflow. So at 1 meter, the sound is mostly a waterfall tone, sort of. So I wouldn't say I would mind it much. It's not the quietest fan I've heard. It's got a little bit of that sort of that microwave sound, thing to it. It's got that whir to it. So it's not absolutely silent. No, but I'm not sure what I expected. This is certainly doing better than some of the other fans I've played with. This is at full speed, so it's about as loud as it'll get. So on a table, it'll produce a little bit more sound. If we put it on something box, it's fine. So that's a lot of air noise, isn't it? I'd say, based on the fact that, it's shaking the table a little bit while it's running, and I'd say I definitely would suggest putting rubber mounts on it, perhaps, if you were running at full speed. Okay, well, next we'll test the PWM part of this, and for that we will connect our Pwm Generator to the output of that. Now, I'm not sure if it would like 12 volt PWM, so let's switch over the power supply for this to a 5 volt supply and see if that helps. Let's see if we can get that to do anything. So, let's see, let's unplug that. And let's hook up the 5 volt supply to our controller. So I'm sending a 50% duty cycle to the fan, and that's slowed it down considerably. There's no PWM sounds or anything that's offensive. We're back to being silent. Can't really hear that over the ambient sound in the room. I can kind of hear it. It's fine though. So at 50%, we still got quite a lot of airflow. Let's see what happens when you go down. Whoops, that's the frequency. Let's leave that at 21 kilohertz. So let's go back down to 0. At 0% PWM, this fan will stop, and that's one of the features it advertises, because most fans don't do that. So let's quickly pop that up to 5 or 6%. Let's see when it starts. Okay, it starts at about 10 to 12%. Okay, I think. Okay, so that looks like the minimum speed that this will go. Let's see if what happens. We'll stop it. If we stop it, it won't start again unless you start it manually. So that's a little bit too low. So at 20%, let's see what's the sort of minimum speed for it to start. Is at 26%, we're looking good. Actually, it does try to start, even down quite low. Let's see if that was just if it has that feature. So we stop it, it'll probably kick itself back on. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it'll restart. Realistically though, not 10%, it's barely going. So that's only going at maybe like a few RPM. Like it's absolutely silent at this point, so, but I'm not sure what that's doing. It's not moving very much air, is it? It's actually moving a little bit, only a little. It's not very useful, it's quite quiet. So if we go up, let's see, when do we start getting a breeze? Okay, so at 25%, it's running quite slowly. A small amount of airflow. Actually, quite decent amount of airflow. If we turn that up, it's at 37, 39. So it's kind of shaking a little bit. The balance is kind of not the best. I still can't quite hear it. I can only hear it at 50. So I'd say around 47 would be the limit of when I can hear the fan, at about a foot and a half away from it. But it's moving quite a lot of air, so it's fine. There's no real noise if you have like a grill or something against it, it looks like. So let's keep going. So at 60%, we're moving quite a lot of air. It's quite nice actually. If we go to 70. 70 is when you start getting noise. A little more air. 80, yeah, it's definitely audible now, but not loud. That's a lot of air, so you probably wouldn't need that normally. At 90, you can definitely hear it. There's a lot more air. And that's 100, so overall I think for this one the optimal speed is probably something around 70. To be honest, it's slightly audible, but moves plenty of air, but not quite as much as to be annoying. Yeah, I quite like that one actually. We'll compare this one to the F14s we have and see how the noise stacks up. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so here is the F14. This is the revision 1 with the PST technology, so that's basically just a second PWM header put in parallel with the first. So we got lots more blades on this one. This one's designed for airflow. So if we compare it to the P14 that we saw, the blades are a bit, there's a lot more of them. Overall, it's about the same weight. This time the struts are straight and they're very thin, kind of like how this looks. This is kind of a nice looking fan, if you had these in a case with a window on it. Spinning it by hand, some decent amount of airflow. Motor design, basic idea is the same. You can probably take that off if you didn't like it. I kind of like that, you know, not having no stickers, having that printed on there. Reminds me sort of like the the fan in the Xbox one, was it? So let's see if this one comes off. So it says that this one is a magnetic bearing, and it is a 9-blade fan design. It goes from 550 to 1350 RPM. And these are all rated at about 0.3 sounds, which is about 0.28 decibels. Actually, I mean 28 decibels, sorry. That's what I found. But anyway, let's see if this one opens up. No, not this one. I won't try to break them, so... yeah, this one doesn't want to come off the same way the other one did. But this one doesn't claim to have like special magnets or anything. Cogs at roughly the same intensity, so I'm guessing the other one doesn't really have a stronger magnet. That was kind of a disappointment. Let's just plug this one in. Let's see. So I want to connect the wiring. So we got this one powered on. Ooh, okay, so this one's definitely louder. I can definitely hear this one a lot better than the... I can hear this one a lot better than the P14. Airflow is around the same. Honestly, I think the static pressure of both is quite sufficient. You can feel that it's quite a strong fan, actually. But I can definitely hear this noise. Get that whine to it. It's quite a... It's got it's sitting on a desk. So this one produces less noise when it's just sitting somewhere. So perhaps this one's actually got a lower vibration motor in it. Okay, well so yeah, that's the kind of sound signature I don't really like. But overall, it's looking just fine. So let's see about changing the speed on that. So that's not connected, so let's connect that. So bringing the speed down to 69. It's a lot quieter, not a lot less airflow. So it looks like this has the same sweet spot. Let's see. So at, oh, I can't see that. So at 50%. I can still hear it at 50. it's at 43%. This isn't audible at 43, so 43%, I don't think you're gonna hear that. Yeah, at 43%, it's completely silent. It's moving a decent amount of air, about the same that the P14 did. So I would have to say, given the same price, definitely go P14 instead of F14, just based on this. It's not a bad fan, it's running quite stably. And this one doesn't do that thing where it's, it doesn't chatter against the table. It doesn't create that buzzing sound. So it's got a much smoother running motor. I can't hear that really, so I think this one's good. Let's see if this one turns off. If we go down. So it's absolutely silent now. It's moving quite slowly, and there's not very much air coming out of that. A little bit, more than the P14 at low speeds. We'll see when we get it to stop, or if we can get it to stop. Okay, so it's moving very, very slowly. Okay, so it's stopped. Okay, so this one also does the auto restart, so it works at say around 12% is where it stops moving very well. It's moving very slowly right now. Again, it's probably not very useful at this kind of speed. It might as well not be on. I do like the sort of the thin, struts. It kind of looks kind of neat compared to other fans I've seen. Well, okay, well that was the F14. It's not as impressed with it as I imagined. Okay, here is the F14 revision 2, so we don't have the PST on this one. It's a single connector, and the fan itself looks basically exactly the same. I don't know if you can tell. It's about exactly the same, so let's just plug this one in and see if it's any different. So they keep talking about redesigned motors and whatnot, but we'll see if that's important. Yeah, it's a lot of noise. It's a lot of noise coming from that. Let's pick that up. Oh, I can feel the vibrations. It's not very well built. It's shaking. See if you can. Let's see if I can somehow get it to a demonstration of that. You can hear the sound. Mostly air noise from a meter away. You can hear that sort of that pure tone of the blades passing. The design is the same. There's a lot of airflow, as always. Lots of airflow. So why don't we start with the Pwm test bit now. Okay. I'm not really going to bother testing these under voltages, actually, since we can. They're basically the same, so I'll just test this one quickly. So we drop that down to 9 volts. They don't consume a lot of power. You can still hear it. And at 5 volts, they're absolutely silent. These would make good USB fans, but this one's poor. It's you can even see it. It's not quite balanced, is it? Let's have a closer look. I don't know if you can see that on the video. It's not perfectly balanced. It's yeah, there you go. It's kind of wonky. Yeah? It's not good. So the revision 2 is what I assume it's worse, unfortunately. So no real point testing that more. It's GAR. No need to waste time with that. Okay, now we're looking at the P12. So this is a 120 millimeter version of the P14 we saw over there. Same basic design. It looks kind of like the Xbox fan again. It's got the swept blades. I'm not going to take this one apart, or should I? Just to see if it has that neodymium magnet structure thing they were talking about. This one doesn't want to come apart again, so maybe we'll not do that. But looking from the, let's see if we can get that, get a shot of that. Can I see that? It's a little bit hard to see that light in here. Well, it's the same magnet, so it's the same motor, same magnet, no point in looking into this that much. If we zoom back out. Yeah, overall, it's the same. It is the same, it's the same fan. So, let's just jump into testing. So let's connect it as usual. The black first and the red. Okay, we're on 5 volts. Once again, we're moving actually quite a lot of air. I can't hear it. Okay, now we're at 9 volts. That's rather quiet. I like that. This is quiet and it's running smoothly. I can still hear the vibration, so that's not good. The vibration is quite a lot less than let's see from other fans. I can still feel it, so I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure how to feel about that one. It's fine. It's moving quite a lot of air, so I'm not too concerned about that. Now we're at 12 volts and it's producing significantly more noise for not a lot of wind. It's not noisy. I wouldn't say it's noisy. I mean, it's just audible. At a meter, it's fine. Well, let's try the Pwm, of course. Hooking that up, we're back at 12%. Of course, 12%, it's a little too slow to actually do anything useful. So we're gonna go back up to, say, at 46%, I cannot hear it. At 58%, I can almost hear it. At 72%, it's actually quite quiet. It's a sort of a nice surprise. So it's quite a lot more quiet than it was on the voltage tests. So of course I think the sort of sweet spot for this one is around 70% again. You know, once you go up to like 80, 90, or this is full on, there's a little more airflow, but you get a lot more noise. Again, does it have a fancy neodymium magnet? No, I don't think so. Or at least not a very good one. It looks like a magnet, flexible magnet ring inside it. These aren't the worst fans I've tried by any stretch, but they're not the best. But up to 70%, they're quite quiet. So I'm inclined to think that these are going to be fine. If you put them in a power supply or something, and it turns the fans down. It's a decent amount of airflow. So the real question is, how do these compare to the F12s? We'll find out next. So here is the Arctic F12. In the background, you'll hear the P12 still running. Let's see if we can fix the shutter speed. Okay, so the F12 Pwm, this is the revision 2 because the store did not have the first generation. This looks like exactly what that guy had in his PC. This is the one that I heard first. So I'm hoping it's still they're still decent. So let's switch over the connections and see how this one performs. Black, red. Let's get that in. Okay, so I definitely hear that. Lots more air noise with the F series, and not a lot more wind than the P series. Actually, less wind, I'd say. It's fine. The air doesn't go as far. It's just not. It's not a loud fan, but again, I feel that vibration. It's just these aren't balanced that well, especially these revision 2 ones. Let's see if you can hear that vibration against the table. It's a shame because the motors in these are really they shake a lot, so that's not good. I guess you get what you pay for with these. Really, these are worse than those, that's for sure. So this is 12 volts. Might as well try. Okay, so at 5 volts, these are fine. I don't mind them at 5 volts. I don't feel the vibration anymore. Look, they don't even shake the table. That's a surprise. The airflow is still decent, but not for really if you cover half of it. So this is probably not suitable for a power supply. In a power supply, you have half of it covered. Not very much air comes out of the... Well, it's covered because there's a baffle in the power supply that covers about that much of it to divert air through the electronics and not just out the side, but looks like if you do that, it kind of cuts the airflow out of this one. Again, it's quite quiet. It doesn't touch the case. That's a good thing. So you can put it in backwards. Let's go for 9 volts. These are tame at 9 volts. These work fine at 9 volts. I like them. So at 9 volts, these are fine. It's mostly when you go to 12 volts, these get kind of... So the F12 is definitely better than the F14. I don't really like the F14. The P14 is a much better alternative. Even though they look kind of similar, the F12 and the F14. I'm kind of glad I got all these to test because I wouldn't have noticed as much between these two. These are nicer actually. Anyway, we're at 12 volts now, so let's quickly do our Pwm test. So Pwm plugged in at full. Let's back it down. Okay, so at about 70%. At 70% again, you have that sort of like that airflow balance with the performance. I can't really hear it. Okay, I can if I listen for it, but it's fine. It's moving quite a lot of air. Impressive amount of air, actually. And at 58, yeah, like at 50%, it's moving a decent amount of air. Oh, I can kind of hear that bearing. Oh, look, you can see that thing shaking, almost. Could just be my hand, but if I hold it with 2 hands. Yeah, it's the fan. Yeah, the fan's still shaking. You probably can't see that on the camera, but that's fine. Can you tell that it's sort of off-center? No, not really. This one's not as bad as the F14 was. I guess you can see it in the feathering. Yeah, this is nowhere near as, you know, undesirable as the F14 revision 2. They really made it crap with the new ones. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if it's the one I have or if it's general, the F14 not being very good. Overall, okay, so yeah, so these are good for low speed operation. If they're sort of slowed down, say these are in a computer case and you have them kind of slowed down to 26% or 30 or even 50, these are very, very quiet. These are very quiet fans, and you won't hear them likely over anything else in the system, like hard drives or anything else. You might have them there. I don't hear any PWM sound. We can try that. All these seem to use the same chip, so what we'll do is we'll put the PWM at something, let's say 60%. We'll turn the frequency down. Okay, so these are using electronic speed control, and that's very good because even at 40 kilohertz apparently works. So I kind of like that actually. So it's not going to create, you know, buzzing sounds if your fan controller is configured to output very low frequencies. It's not going to squeak, and that's a good thing. It's not going to turn into a little buzzer. So it does seem like they're using custom ICs. This one's running pretty smoothly now. So I mean, all in all, looking at all of these fans we just tested, I have to say my favorite is probably still the P14, which is this one over here. I still like the P14. It's big, so it's not going to fit into everything, but it's got nice quiet operation, and it doesn't rattle, and it doesn't have any particularly undesirable characteristics. And of course it comes apart, so you can clean it and whatnot. But the F12 is a pretty good candidate. I'm going to do a little more testing to see which one goes in the amplifier. I can give you a baseline if you want, just to see how loud that one is. But so it's between this and the P12 for the amplifier. So I'm not sure which one I'll keep, honestly. They all seem fine. We'll see. But the F14s, these ones, I'm not sure what happened with these. The one with the PST is fine. This is the older one. It's not, I would still get the P14 over the F14 unless you really like how this one looks. The P14 just works better in every way, in my opinion. It has they have like the same CFM ratings actually, but the P14 apparently has more static pressure, the P series. So if you can find the P series in a color you like, I would say definitely go for the P over the F. The F14 revision 2, this one's going back. It's either defective or they're not made very well. I'm guessing they're just not made very well in general. I think this one's got a little curve here. So yeah, there's a little bit of you get what you pay for with these. These are the same price, so I'd say go for the P series. I like the black sort of color scheme. These are like Xbox fans. Look basically exactly the same. They're nice. So yeah, that's kind of my conclusion. This is not intended to reflect. I haven't tested more than one sample of each, of course, and this is totally unscientific. I'll measure the sound a little bit. I'll try to after the video, but don't take anything I've said as particularly scientific, because it's not. And yeah, that's basically the conclusion of this fan testing session. Now, before I sign off, I'll show you what the amplifier sounds like. Let's click it on. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So the fan controller in here is having a bit of a fit. So it's not, fan's not on really. It's kind of quiet when it's at low speed. So the fan in this one, I'll stop it to show you what it looks like. It's a 24 volts sort of fan. It's got straight blades, and it's not very loud. It's not very loud when it's going slowly, but when it gets going, it kind of gets a little louder. Yeah. No name, no sticker. So that's what we're trying to change. But this one's got a lot of cogging. So that one's 24 volts, so I actually have some power regulators, voltage regulators, that'll put in. I'll decide whether or not to put in variable speed. But yeah, that's about it for now. Yeah, and hope that was sort of useful to someone.